The Heroic Adventures of Vane, Minthaelyara, and the Daggers.
Orryn sits next to Vane. I was going to give this to you before we departed, but I think now is the time. Orryn rustles through his bag and pulls out a blue leather-bound journal. This is for Lenny, and he hands it over to Vane.
Vane removes his hand from his eyes to look at what you are giving him, and you can see anger, pain, and deep frustration present in them before he seems to force his face back to its usual firm and placid expression. He reaches out and accepts the journal. For Lenny? What is this? A story? His tone has returned to normal.
Orryn opens the first page in his hands, and it reads in a definitely readable but not very great penmanship, The Heroic Adventures of Vane Minthaelyara and the Daggers.
Vane chuckles in a much more light-hearted fashion than earlier and smiles.
I thought this way he would know what his brother did to get back. As you flip through, it is a retelling of all of our adventures from meeting Vane and Orryn up to the present. From no one in particular's perspective, though you do notice that Orryn is present only when necessary. It's toned down slightly in graphic detail. Dailu and Thane are there, great heroes that joined the Frost in their hour of greatest need. No one is bashed or put down. It's the story of the group as heroes, all equal, though Vane may be embellished a bit more at times to really pump up the heroism.
Vane looks very happy. About halfway through, you can see him have to collect himself before continuing to read.
The final page ends with Vane setting off on one final leg of his journey, Daggers at his side, to rescue Lenny and save the land from the clutches of evil. It is rough and a little stained and salt-crusted, but against all odds, intact.
It's incredibly well done, Orryn. A far better job than I think I could have done myself, and that's saying quite a bit.
Well, it's less than he deserves, but thank you. All of you, actually, and he looks to Vinaya and Sato. Thank you for fighting for Dailu and me. We wouldn't be here without you.
Of course, Orryn. If Vane Minthaelyara weren't a warrior willing to lay down his life for the good of others, what would he be? And that goes double for his heroic companions, through which they've gone through thick and thin together. Vane seems significantly re-energized.
Now don't lose that. I've had it since Maikuna, and it's literally been from heaven to hell without getting destroyed.
Vane laughs as he claps Orryn on the shoulder lightly in a friendly fashion. This is probably the first time Vane has ever initiated any physical camaraderie with any member of the group. How could the author of such a book hand it over prior to penning the finale? You've done so much for Lenny already, but I wish to ask you a favor, Orryn.
And what would that be?
Vane hands the book back. Please continue the story, Orryn. Having read this, there's no one else I'd rather have do so, and I don't know what awaits us in Vox. Out of all of us, Orryn, you are the mightiest and most likely to survive. I want to be sure the ending is written as well as the introduction, and that it makes its way into Lenny's hands, no matter what happens to me.
Orryn takes the book back. Out of all of us, I'm the most likely to explode and send this book into oblivion, whatever you think is best.
Vane smirks. If it was so likely to happen, I think it would have happened already. If that book could have survived with you through everything you did since Maikuna, you're more capable at keeping it safe than I could ever be.
As you wish.
Vane seems happier and more at ease right now than he has since the party first went to Cronus. It's likely a bit jarring. Smiling while drinking the tea, he says, Do you remember that time when Thane was certain he was still dreaming, having been so sick while fighting all those Gouths?
You mean yesterday?
Nearly. At that time, we nearly all were made to sleep forever before he believed himself awake. The irony still gets to me.
Orryn just heats up some water and prestidigitates it to make it taste good and drinks alongside them.
Vane continues like that, bringing up small stories about the party's adventures so long as the tea lasts.
Zadiah looks really touched, actually, by Orryn's present. And yeah, she's just there. She doesn't interrupt the moment. She's sitting contentedly, drinking tea, chilling out, starting to smile a little bit. She still seems a little bit wary or distracted, but not too much.
All right. I'm going to end the recording.
One thing to note that didn't come up in this, it was asked out of character in between if Vane had seen this before. And I said no. I think technically that's wrong because I think there have been a number of times where all of you have come to talk to me in my captain's quarters, and I have said out loud, Orryn's just writing. Always it was in that book. So you would have seen him writing in that book before a lot because I was talking with Jared in the background a lot and just like, okay, I need to find in-game time to write a whole fucking novel. So I think Vane would have seen me writing in that journal a lot, actually.
I think that probably, with Vane's personality as it is, just look right over it. Just right at you. He's like, he's working on something it's probably not worth paying attention to. It's Orryn's writing.
Yeah, he wouldn't have seen like the contents, but he may actually recognize that little blue journal as Orryn is always
awesome.
around.
Very
I
awesome.
love that.
Plus,
I also-
that's the one that you initially fished out of the ship, right?
No, I asked Jared if I could buy this after Vane had our first talk, before we actually left Mikuna.
All right, awesome.
It's also the reason that I had to, when we were desperately trying to get everything off, I had to run back to my captain's quarters and then come back and cast animate object on that box because I had to go get the journal so it didn't sink into the ocean.
That
awesome.
literally just clicked for me when AJ asked his question. I was like, no, but that's what he went back for.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
I also want to point out that in the first section of this, Orryn is like, I should take the ring, because if anything bad happens to me, I can just put up an indestructible shield, no problem. And in this one, Vane is like, can you take care of this notebook? And Orryn's like, no, I'll explode. You can't trust me not to just explode.
I mean, I think the ring would be fine through an explosion.
That's fair.
That's
This book
Orryn's
would
thought, too.
not.
That depends on how big of an explosion.
My friends will pick up the ring from my pile of ashes. This book will be part of that pile of ashes.
That pile of ashes is going to be on a boat like a mile that way that you will be teleported to.
I'm going to end the recording here.